Hey, it's Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
So glad we could catch up with this guy again, Mike McAuliff,
Yes,
Executive
sir.
Director of Youth for Christ Atlanta. Mike, how are you?
Doing well. Enjoying this fake spring, as we know in Atlanta, where it's a couple of days of warmth, and then reality sets back in.
Yeah, and it teases us, and then we go
Atlanta.
back to cold, and then we get hot, and then we get cold. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Now, Mike, if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, you're a Florida boy, aren't you?
I am, yes. So it is a different world. I enjoy seasons instead of just hot and hotter in college football season, which is in love bug season. There's also a season in Florida, but yeah, I'm a Florida boy. So, but been here now 12 years. So, and my youngest was actually born in Atlanta. So I'm starting to feel like an Atlantean, if that's the word. Maybe I've just showed myself not being one. But yeah, love it here. Absolutely.
Now I can deal with the hot in Florida, but the love bug season, that counts me out.
It was so funny. When I first moved up here, I was getting my car detailed, and I was just going to a car wash, and the guy that was doing our car wash said, "Hey, I'm so sorry. There's these things on the front of your car that like we couldn't get off." I was like, "Oh, it's just love bugs." She's like, "Love bugs? What are those?" And I'm just thinking, how does anybody not know what love bugs are? But
if you've been to Florida, you know. Yeah,
you know what love bugs are. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm not going to ask what I because I had never heard that term.
Really? Yeah.
Apparently, there are bugs you don't love.
No, and the theory is too. I'm a Florida State guy, so I went to Florida State. So obviously we know the team that I don't like is in Gainesville. Supposedly, it was created in a lab in Gainesville, which would explain a lot. That's all I'm saying, but that would explain a lot. So
okay, there you go.
Mike McAuliff, Executive Director of Youth for Christ Atlanta. Mike, the last time we talked a little bit about, I think the schools were 100% shut down or
yes.
maybe half or whatever. But then we talked about the challenges. Of course, Youth for Christ have been around for so long, doing so many amazing things in high school, middle school, college campuses, just about everywhere, right?
Yep.
Kind of catch us up with how it's going for you guys over there.
Yeah, thanks. Last time we talked, it was probably early on in the school season, and we're just trying to figure out, the schools were figuring out what we're going to do. And so since then, though, it really has given us an opportunity to learn a lot about our own ministry, too. But one thing that we started to realize pretty early on, because our ministry is really always focused on being on public schools. And once we didn't have that anymore, it became a mirror to us realizing how dependent we are on our large group gatherings in order to connect with students. And so what we have learned in this process, and it's been pretty amazing to watch, is like, how do we both continue to lean in with, when we can, with the large schools, our group gatherings that are on campus, but at the same time, not forget about the relationships, which is part of our story, right? We always talk about, even within Youth for Christ, that we're about relationships. We're about knowing students more than their first names. But then we started to realize a lot of our ministry was predicated not on that. So this season has been a gift for us, and just learning what does it look like to balance between, we still have those large group gatherings when we can meet on school, and some of our schools we're able to meet on, but also making sure that our students are being heard and we're getting to know their stories. And so, for example, just recently on one of our group gatherings on Zoom in Lilburn, so one of our groups for Lilburn, I think it's Lilburn Middle School, actually, Zoom gathering, one of our leaders was talking, and he started to go through scripture and just started talking about a story through scripture. And a kid all of a sudden like chimed up, so the box turned yellow on Zoom, and he says, "Hey, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be here, but I'm not a Christian. Am I supposed to be here? Can I stay?" And of course, absolutely, you can stay. And so as that conversation went on, the student was engaged, was asking questions and so on. Fast forward another week, guess who was back and had brought a friend with him?
Wow, man, that's awesome.
So not only is like this a student who doesn't know Jesus yet, he is now our greatest evangelist, bringing other non-Christian kids to these clubs. And so that would not have happened when basketballs are going in the middle of a gym, but it's only because of the grace of God that we're learning how to do both. And so that's just something that we're seeing God continue to move in the midst of a difficult season, but we're learning a lot. It's been really encouraging to see those stories, because now we're learning how to both not forget about our individual students and know them by name, as we always talk about, but we're now actually getting to live that out. And it's been really special for us.
talking to Mike McAuliff from Youth for Christ. And one of the things that I love about what you guys do, and it's on your website, you have on there, it says corrosion of faith.
Yeah.
And how that's just teens who identify as not having any kind of faith, even teens who maybe have grown up in the church.
Absolutely.
And I see this a lot of times where kids graduate from high school and they just leave the church and they never come back. And you guys are there to stand in the gap and help kids to continue in their faith. And I love that.
Thanks. Absolutely. Yeah, it's really part of our story. It's part of my story. That's how I came to know Jesus, was through the ministry. I think I mentioned last time too, but our goal is raising up lifelong followers of Jesus. And we do live in Atlanta. We live in the South, and we know a lot of it can be cultural. It can be just, well, that's how our family was raised. We went to church, but what does that actually mean? Going to church and have a relationship with Jesus are two different things. And our goal is to do that well. And so I'm just so blessed and the team we have around us that keep that at the forefront. And so it's just been an amazing journey to be here. And we have an incredible team around us and a long history, as you were mentioning, Rick. We've been here since the 1950s. And so I get to just ride on the coattails of a bunch of other great people who were here before me. And hopefully one day someone else will sit at this desk and be able to continue to tell that story of what we're doing here in Atlanta.
Now, you haven't been here since the 50s. I can say that. Okay, You look awfully young.
I lost my hair about 20, but no, I'm still in my 30s, so I still got a ways to go, hopefully.
I got you.
Mike McAuliff of YFC Youth for Christ Atlanta. Mike, and you mentioned that shift and how you guys have shifted. It sounds to me like you've shifted very, very well. I think the entire church has shifted and maybe we've awakened to say, you know what, you're right. This is about relationships. And I got to say, in our church, that's one of the standard vision, the visions that's on the list, relationships. But this caused us to go, wait a minute, have we really had relationships?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely shown a mirror on the reality of, okay, we can say it, but are we actually doing it? And this is just a reminder of that. No. And we're seeing the effects when we do it well, right? Like we're seeing the effects even within the churches, as difficult as it is. And the numbers are staggering, the weight that we felt this pandemic. But at the same time, God is still very much present in the midst of this. And that's been such a great reminder for all of us, I think.
Your staff, no doubt you have an amazing staff. How are they and how do you see them growing, not only in this, on the other side of it? Because it sounds like that you're not going to go back to normal because the normal that we had, it doesn't work anymore. So it's got to be something that's fresh. How are they doing with that?
Yeah, I have incredible people around me. And I think what we're realizing and what they're seeing now too is, as much as we are focusing on our students, and we will continue to do that, our mission is 11 to 19-year-olds. Another big piece of what we're doing is making sure that if we think about the expanse of Atlanta, even with other incredible ministries like FCA and Young Life and other ministries like that are quote-unquote parachurch ministries, and well as the church involvement in these schools, what we're starting to realize is the only way that we're going to be serious about reaching this goal of the amount of schools that we have is this idea of multiplication. So a lot of where we're focusing now is we're training our leaders that we're spending just as much time with our students as empowering our leaders and our volunteers to be relational as well. And a lot of our leaders come from the local church. So it's been just kind of a cool way of seeing it go both ways and how we can work together in the idea of these building these relationships and just keeping that at the forefront. And so even as our youth pastors are changing the way that they're doing ministry, instead of being programs, we're seeing a lot more relationships and making sure we can know these kids' stories. And so it's just been a beautiful thing to watch our leaders just kind of lean in with our volunteers outside of our paid staff as they're trying to build these deeper relationships. It's just kind of continuing to progress outside of just our small team, but it's continuing to grow and multiply, which has been fun to watch.
Mike, how can folks who are watching help you guys out if they're passionate about youth? Like I'm passionate about youth. How can folks help you out and get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best way is to connect with us. You can check out AtlantaYFC.org. Just kind of get a game plan of what we're doing. But from there, it's just we would love to connect with you personally and begin to just hear on our story, hear your story as well too. Because I think anybody that wants to be involved, we want to make sure that it's it's a marriage both ways, and there's a partnership both ways. And so we want to make sure that we're listening really well too. So we will gladly take you on a coffee or Zoom, because we're all really proficient with that now, and just connecting and see where those needs are. But our biggest need right now is for leaders in the Fulton and Gwinnett County areas that'll be willing to work in the front lines with students, or if not, connect us to churches that really have a desire to be on public schools. And that's kind of where we're at right now.
Okay.
Love it. Mike McAuliff, Executive Director, Youth for Christ in Atlanta. Mike, you're such a blessing. Love your passion. Blessing to your family and to the folks around you. We got to take a break. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith Talk Live.